Allow me to ask you a question. What is love? Is it perhaps a human response to being around someone we like or particularly care for? Or perhaps it's a combination of chemicals and pheromones? What if I did tell you that all you had to do was follow your nose? Good morning, my name is Shane and today I'm looking at the inner workings of falling in love with someone. Now today we'll be looking at a theory presented by Helen Fisher, whom is a renowned researcher in this field at Rutgers University located in New Jersey. She believes that there are 3 stages to falling in love. And a moment ago I mentioned following your nose, and for your information, if anyone ever tells you that, they're lying. I'm referring to the vomeronasal organ, which due to mutations is no longer operational in humans, but it is located right here. I'll do a video on it in the future, but for now, back to today's topic. Unfortunately, we are at the whim of our biochemistry, meaning that our body will naturally respond to someone based on interactions, the smell, or maybe something we see but may not actually consciously notice. Taking a step back, when you find yourself attracted to anyone, it's completely feasible that you subconsciously like their genes. So, what do I mean by these 3 stages I mentioned a moment ago? Well, Helen believes that each stage is important and each plays a fundamental role in the process of falling in love. They also have their own chemicals that drive each of these particular stages. For example, lust is the first stage, and it's not exactly surprising to learn that. It's driven by sex hormones, which again is not exactly surprising. These hormones are testosterone and estrogen, and what you may find surprising, however, is that testosterone is not exactly limited to men and men alone. It has, however, been shown to play a substantial role in the sex drive of females. And if I'm going to go ahead and quote Helen Fisher, it gets you out looking for anything. The second stage is where things get extremely interesting. It has been dubbed the attraction stage, and whilst in this particular stage, you might find yourself able to stay up later, needing much less sleep than you ever did before, and you might even find yourself having a loss of appetite. This stage of love holds 3 key neurotransmitters or chemicals, and they play huge roles. These 3 are dopamine, norepinephrine, and serotonin. Now it's important to know that these 3 neurotransmitters actually have various tasks, but for the sake of this video we're going to stick to how they actually affect the various stages and falling in love in general. We'll begin with dopamine. Dopamine helps regulate movement and emotional responses to things. So this means that the more dopamine your body creates, the happier you are and the more motivated you are to things. This particular chemical also aids in controlling the brain's reward and pleasure centers. But not only to just see these rewards, but to actually take action and figure out how the best way to go about achieving those very same goals. Norepinephrine, or sometimes referred to as noradrenaline, breaking this particular chemical down to its most general form means that its function is to mobilize the brain and body for action. A good way to notice this is when you're asleep versus when you're awake. Noradrenaline release is at its lowest when your body is asleep, yet rises when you wake. What makes it interesting is that it reaches very high levels in situations where you might be stressed or in danger. You might recognize this during the so-called fight or flight response. So how is it helping your relationship in any way? Everything I just set aside, noradrenaline will also increase both your alertness, your arousal, it'll promote your vigilance, it'll enhance formation and retrieval of memory, and even help you focus your attention. Now beyond that mouthful, there is a little bit more, and it's worth noting that noradrenaline actually has a number of negative things associated with it as well, such as an increase in restlessness and anxiety, which may increase your blood pressure. Afterwards, we can move on to serotonin and keep this relatively short. Similar to dopamine, serotonin is relatively well known. It's popularly thought to be a contributor to feelings of well-being and happiness, which is true. It helps regulate your mood, your appetite, and even your sleep. Having low serotonin is detrimental and can be seen in people who are depressed. So moving on to the final stage, which has been dubbed attachment. You'd never get anything done if we remained in the second stage forever, again quoting Helen Fisher. And so new chemicals come into play that are key in every relationship. In this stage, people release both oxytocin and vasopressin. And let me tell you how amazing these two particular chemicals can be. I'll begin with oxytocin, as it's an extremely important chemical, and it's released by the hypothalamus gland during childbirth to cement a strong bond between mother and child. It also helps a woman's breast express milk, but both genders will release oxytocin during orgasm, and it is commonly believed that it will promote bonding when adults engage in intimacy. Theory suggests that the more sex a couple has, the deeper their bond will become. But what about vasopressin? If oxytocin is playing such a huge role, how does this fit into the equation? Well, scientists actually discovered the vital role this chemical can play during an experiment on prairie voles. For context, prairie voles engage in more copulation than is strictly necessary for repopulation purposes, and so by giving male prairie voles a drug that negated the effects of vasopressin, they could witness the response. What they found was the bonds between male and female prairie voles evaporated immediately, losing all devotion to their partners and even failing to protect them from other male suitors. Remember back to the start of this video, I mentioned that you may just need to follow your nose. I did augment this by stating that it is in fact a lie. However, there was an interesting study performed back in 1995. It was performed by Klaus Wedekind, who is a professor at the University of Bern in Switzerland. He asked a group of women to smell some unwashed t-shirts worn by different men, and before you wrinkle your nose, the results were relatively interesting. The women consistently preferred the smell of men whose immune systems were drastically different from their own, and this is supported by other animals who see how resistant their partners are to disease by sniffing their pheromones. That'll do it for the rest of this particular video. And I do want to make a short note here that there is unfortunately no way to determine if a relationship is going to last or if it won't. There are indications on if it will based on statistical studies, and researchers have been coming up with several predictors for success. This is generally based on how you met, when, how you resolve conflict, and how similar you both are and your expectations, your goals. But what I want people to know is that all relationships can and possibly will work. Don't watch videos such as this or any other and assume that just because you have different tastes or that your goals are different that it's doomed to fail. There's still millions of things that science has yet to explain, and if you feel that you personally love your partner, there is no reason to let someone like myself or anyone else tell you otherwise. You're the only one that can make you happy, and only you should go ahead and do that. I do, however, look forward to seeing everyone in the next one. So before I wrap everything up here, I did want to say thank you to ParanoidHumanoise, and I'm hoping I'm saying that name right, for creating the background music. And I told him I would get this video done like 2 months ago, and I ended up having to move to a completely new location, and so I'm just now getting it done. And I'm hoping he's not too awful mad at me. Anyway, you guys have a wonderful day, and I've given a link to his SoundCloud down in the description below.